A warm welcome to this startup talk. Today we are going to talk to Shirin about the breakthrough when everything fell into place. My name is Emma Krantz and I'm the community manager and project manager here at LEAD. I will start by telling you a little bit of what LEAD is and what we are doing. So LEAD is a business incubator, and then you might wonder, what is an incubator? Well, as a business incubator, we help companies grow faster and safer, and basically accelerating the development of startup with high growth potential. So they become scalable growth companies. And now, how do we do that? So we provide idea owners and entrepreneurs a wide range of directed researches and services such as business coaching, network to business contacts, and to support financing, and much more. And during this webinar, we will meet Shirin Ilkhanziadeh, and she works at Celluminova. And I hope that you all have a lot of questions to her. So if you have, please write them below in the Q&A, and I will try to let them in during the conversation. And we will also afterwards have a session that we can take some questions. But first, now I will welcome Shirin. Welcome, Shirin, and how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Really fun to do this. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. It feels very good after we have talked, and I'm so happy that you are here so we can talk more about you and the journey that you have been through, and also your company. And you have many years of experience in researches, and today you are the CEO of Celluminova. Will you please let us know, what is Celluminova and what are you doing?
Yeah, so we have a biomarker that is taken up by stem cells and tumor stem cells specifically. And the idea is that if you can visualize something, you can also target them specifically. So our technology has the potential to be the first ever method to assist brain surgeons to remove tumors during surgery. These type of tumor driving cells that are actually usually missed in conventional therapy. So that's what we are doing.
Yeah. And today at the market, I don't think there are anything like this, right?
No, nothing that directly is directed towards these type of stem cells in the brain tumors. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have, well, you have been in Celluminova from the start. Please take us we take it from the start. Let us know, how did it start for you in Celluminova, and tell us about your background.
Yeah. So it actually all started during my PhD studies at the Karolinska Institute. I was a PhD student. This was one of my first projects that I got when I got to the lab to find a molecule for the identification of neural stem cells, actually. Because the lab I was in, we were studying neural stem cells in the developing brain. And we had an ongoing collaboration with a chemistry lab at Linköping University. And they synthesize molecules that can bind to specific structures in cells and fluoresce. So they light up these cells. So that was the collaboration and how it all started. And they would synthesize molecules and we would test them on these neural stem cells to find a good marker, a good match, where we could actually visualize these cells in a petri dish at the time. So that's how it started. However, over the years, the project and the ideas have developed into a product for the intended use of finding cancer stem cells in brain tumors. So there are many years of academic research behind this invention, both in the chemistry part, but also in the biology part where I was involved.
Yeah. Well, so if we take it, when you get you get a test tube with a bit of a human brain, right?
So yeah, that's actually forwarding it quite a bit
Yeah,
because
a lot actually.
yeah, a lot, many years. Because
Yeah,
in the beginning we did cultured cells in petri dishes, and we that's what we tested.
yeah,
So and it took many years for us to actually we had to really verify our product in all these types of cell cultures, and also in a lot of mouse work, mouse tissue, to eventually get to the point where we were confident enough to go to the next step, where we started collaborating with neurosurgeons, and we actually get tumor pieces directly from patients,
yeah.
and we can test our molecule. So that's many years just in a few sentences, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, we like compliment. But so when you was the when you were the researcher and you did your PhD, right?
Yeah.
What what made you like get into the stem cells? What was fun and interesting about like keep the project going with stem
Yeah.
cells?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was actually I was an engineer, so I came from an engineering background at KTH at here in Stockholm. And what happened was that when I did my major, which is like the last years, it was in biomedicine,
Mm.
and it was a collaboration with Karolinska, and I was able to go to Florida for my master project, where I worked with stem cells, liver stem cells actually. So I was supposed to grow them in 3D and take an engineering approach to it. But when I came back, I basically fell in love with like stem cells are so amazing. One cell can recreate a whole organ,
Mm.
and even like it all starts with the stem cells, even for a human. Like that's how we all start. So I think it was very intriguing to me too. But I wanted to study the brain and understand how the brain develops, and that's how I went into the lab where I did.
Yeah. And you have a lot of like hours. You have spent a lot of hours in the lab. And
Yeah.
tell us about this start at the beginning when you like did the test and over again. And yeah, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was one of my projects. I had other projects in the lab, and this was one of them where I thought it was very nice because we were studying neural stem cells, and we ourselves wanted to find a good stem cell marker, which was lacking. So uh, for us, it was very interesting. How can we do this so we can visualize these stem cells within minutes in a petri dish right there without having to do a several days of protocols? So that's so we got together with this chemistry lab, and they would send us these molecules to test, and we kept testing and testing with different methods and different and it took many tests and also years. And towards the end of my PhD, this is actually a true story. I don't know if people will believe me, but it was basically a year before I was going to defend, and I said that I think we have tested enough molecules. I'm going to test one more set, and then I want to focus on my on defending and going for a postdoc, and this is it.
Yeah.
So the last set of molecules that I got, it was late one afternoon, and I'm doing it as usual. I'm putting it inside the cell, not really expecting anything, and I basically see the cells light up really beautifully, and I'm like, okay, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And but so I went and I got my supervisor, my PhD supervisor, and I told him to come. He's like, yeah, I think we can have a look. And then when he sees it, he's also like, wow. But both of us, we know how it works, right? It's a first step. We don't know if it's an artifact. There's so many things that could be. So it wasn't like we were jumping up and down and celebrating. It was more like, could this really be something?
Yeah.
Okay, let's plan for the next set of experiments, and how do we test this to really prove what we think that we were seeing.
Yeah. Had you been like this close even, or was every try before?
No.
Like,
No, it was a total fail. Like nothing. It just didn't work. I even tried to like synthesizing this, making them more like. I just tried a lot of different things that you can do in the lab to see if cells can take up, but it never worked. So this was the first time I did see the cells start turning green, basically.
it's amazing. But I wonder, it took like 4 years of testing and testing. And what made you like dare to believe the idea? What kept you going and like never gave up before? It was like 4 years. Why?
Yeah, this is something I always say in research and in running a business now. Persistency. I mean, if I give up, and I hate giving up,
Yeah.
then but I was almost giving up. This was the last try, so it's like but I think it was just also the work wasn't too time consuming from my other projects, so I think it was always interesting enough and with a high potential, so I kept going.
Yeah, you have like the hope. I think.
Yeah, and I mean
Yeah.
we had fantastic chemists, and they were like synthesizing these molecules, and it was a very good collaboration also. So it's we were many people involved, so I think that also helps, of course. Yeah.
It's amazing. We have a questions, and it's so cool how it finally worked out. I agree totally. What were you thinking of in that moment? Did you think of commercialize directly, or how did you get into like that journey?
That's a very good question. I think at that moment, no, and this is something no. At that moment, I wasn't thinking of a product at all. I was more like, after all these tries, this is can this really be true? More like that. It's because there's so many. It could be just an artifact. These cells, something with that day or the media you had the cells. It could be so many things that it wasn't really specific. So my first thought was like, how can I, what's the next step? Like, how can I prove this? And it's not like you can do it the next day. You have to grow cells, and you have, I mean, it's in biology, things take time. So it was more like that, I would say.
It was a lot of steps after this, but what was like the next step after this? I think about like the next morning and your thoughts about letting it go, and suddenly you have the result that you were like wishing for these 4 years. What happened in your brain, and how did it felt?
Yeah, and like I said, we were a team, so it was me and my supervisor, and so we would talk together and then set up experiments. Like, okay, I think we need to test in non-stem cells. So you can take a stem cell, you can add different factors to it, so they start becoming other types of cells.
Okay.
And brain stem cells can become neurons and astrocytes, other types of so that was the first thing. Okay, we need to see if we make these cells into other types of cells, will it still stain them? And if it does, then it's not that interesting, because then it just stains all cells in the brain, and that's not really what we were looking for. So that's the first thing I did. And that's a protocol. It's not just something you can do the next day. So you need to grow the cell, you take the cells from, we were using rats at the time, and then you need to grow them, and you need to make them into different types of cells, and then I added, and then it didn't stain. And that was another like, oh, great, it is specific. But then people ask, what about earlier stem cells, not from the brain? And then, I mean, we just kept going like this, testing different angles. And what about really different cells from other parts of the body? And it was very specific for neural stem cells. So that's how we kept going. And it's not the next day. This is many months. Yeah,
I understand. But what was like the next step? Because you were almost like finished with your studies, and what happened? Like,
So this became a highly prioritized project of mine during that year. I was also doing the other 3 projects. And finishing up and trying to find a lab to go to. But I got really interested in brain tumors at the time, and like reading a lot of different articles about brain tumor stem cells, which had a lot of the same genetics and expressing the same so I was like, they are very similar, neural stem cells and brain tumor stem cells. And so after testing all the other things, I wanted to test on these cells. And I could see that, wow, that's when we were like, okay, this is something, it's not only in neural cell, but also works for tumor stem cells. And I think that's when we were really like, okay, we need to patent, we need to start a company and all these things. So it was a process over some time, but yeah.
Was it like years or
no, it was during that year. Everything happened during that year. So I put together a paper, like an article about this, and then we started the whole patent work, talked to patent company, but I was also determined to go for my postdoc. So we had our first CEO. He was from another field really, but he came in and he really believed in it, in our product, and he came in as a CEO and was extremely good at making sure that we get all the patents. So that's he had a very good So that was what he did, and what we started doing. And then I actually left for my postdoc after that. So I went to San Francisco for 5 years.
Yeah. And what did you do in San Francisco?
Studied brain tumor stem cells.
Yeah. So after like when you come home from San Francisco, what happened then?
When I came back from, I was in contact with the CEO this whole time, also with my previous supervisor. We were all in contact, and they were developing, they were like making sure we have patents in all the countries, continuing to working on the manuscript and our paper. And so work was going on. Keeping on with the research, doing actually some mouse work on it. So a lot of good work was going on, and I was still in contact, and they wanted to make it into a product, and that's what they started like doing while I was away. And when I came back, I wanted to do something totally different. So I decided I wanted to work at a big company. I'd never done that. I'd always been a researcher in research, I had never been out in the real world, as they say. So I started working at AstraZeneca
And this was like 2017, right?
17, 18, around there.
Okay. And then was it then when you have the title like as stability quality assurance manager, like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that was a completely like whole different life of what you have and what you also will have.
It was very different from what I had never worked at a big company. I'd never been in an organization like that. It was very much like I didn't know anything about it, but I liked it. It was really fun. I had like really good colleagues, and I learned, but during this time, like I'd been there for a few months only. I was called for a meeting with Celluminova. And after that meeting, I was asked if I wanted to come and take over as CEO, because they wanted someone with the background that I had. I had years of experience in brain tumor, and that's where they were going. So do you want to come and take over?
Yeah. And what was your answer then?
Yeah, what do you think I said?
I'm glad that you said yes.
I mean, it wasn't a hard decision, I would say, because it was like I had been there from the first experiment, from everything. So it was very easy for me to say yes.
Did you just like resign, or did you how did it go for you?
No, it was an easy decision, but it was also a very calculated one, because I wanted to really verify that the product could actually be basis for a solid startup. And if you remember, like I said, we had never tested in patient material at the time. So we had done tissue, so it's mouse tissue, and we had done human cells, but grown in the lab. So we had never done this. So I didn't know that would work, and that was crucial. So what I did, I decided to start working half-time at Astra and half-time at Celluminova to really verify this.
And
So
for
that
how long did you work, like half
I
time?
did that for 6 months,
Yeah.
and during this time,
Mhm.
we started a collaboration with the neurosurgeons at Karolinska Hospital, and it also, like, we need to make sure we had ethical permits in place to do these experiments and do these very, very important experiments, I would say. For at the same time, I also had to think about funding. We didn't have any funding or any money really to do any of this,
Mhm.
so I had to raise capital and run the experiments, and both of them, like, the experiments are crucial to the other part, because if we didn't have the results, we couldn't really raise any money, because we wouldn't have a product in
No.
the sense that we wanted.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So also around that time, we joined Lead,
Yeah.
which was very, very good for me, because at
Mhm.
Lead you get a business coach,
Yeah.
and that will help you with the business side of everything. Because as a researcher, I
Mhm.
had I didn't know how to run a business or any of those things coming with that.
No. But and I back to the part like where you dare to resign, like to leave your safe part and to believe the idea. What what like made you dare? How were you feeling like that? I know that you had like half time and half time,
Mm,
but was it something more that you felt like I really really want to? I know that
mm.
you're trying, but how do you dare to
Yeah.
leave the safe part? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. I think one part was the safety of having Astra, and they were very supportive. They were like, you can always come back, and don't worry." So I knew that, which
Mhm.
was, I had a great boss there, and she was very reassuring. So that, but I think the most part was that I really believed in the product. I still do,
Mm.
and even though it's not like aha moments all the time, it's always building data, and what we do every day with the research and the clinical trial, everything we do kind of always shows towards good results and what we want. So
Mm.
that always calms me down. So whenever I'm in doubt, I think about, okay, we have the data, what it shows, and then I can keep going.
Yeah. That's awesome. Actually, we have another question that's really good for this topic. And what is your personal driving force and like purpose and
Mhm.
vision now in starting and building a company with this technique that you have like founded here and in this?
Yes. So it's question about motivation, or yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think many things, of course, motivates me. Like if you go through a day or things like. But the main thing is to take an idea to the bench and then potentially to patients. I think actually, I'm not lying. I think about this daily. That's basically it. It really motivates me.
Yeah.
If I don't feel that's all I have to think about, and knowing to have done that, I think it keeps me going.
Yeah. Totally understand that. And you have like this background from research in many, many years. Like, in what way has the background helped you? And during the way, like, when you get the questions to like be the CEO of Celluminova that time, how did you felt like from going from research and like step into the role as a CEO in a company?
Mm. Yeah, I think I can definitely see some parallels between doing research and running a business, even if many things are very different.
Yeah.
And the most prominent one would be to, I think I mentioned this, persistency, that you kind of, you just, you keep going, and you are very persistent, and you don't give up. And I never expect fast, turn of events.
Yeah.
You kind of have to set a goal, and you work towards it very methodically. And I think that has helped me, that I'm not impatient. I know that things take time,
Yeah.
but I think that goes a lot for life science, but also in deep tech in general, that you have to give the process its time. But I think for me personally, it also helped that I know I really understand my product. And for me, it's hard to understand to imagine working with a product or being a CEO for a product that I don't know so well, because this is how I work. But I think that has helped me to also in contact with partners and collaborators and potential customers, that I know the product really well in the background with my research background.
Yeah, yeah. And at that time when you stepped into the CEO, had you had like a leader role before, or
not in that sense, no. I mean, I had been supervising students and I mean whatnot, but no, not in that way at all.
So
yeah, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, and what was like the biggest? Did you felt like the biggest step, or something that you really like lessons learned from researcher to a CEO? Was it something that you like thought about when you became the CEO of the company for being a researcher, or was it just like not
Yeah,
so big?
no, I think one thing is that we are very much still anchored in research, and we are developing, and we do, so we are, I think that part is still very ongoing in Celluminova. But one thing that I and my coach will probably laugh when I say this, I didn't know anything about raising capital, how to build a budget, how to make project, all these things, and also my chairman and like they really helped me to understand all these parts and why other parts are important than just the research, and understanding also the business landscape. And I think that has really helped me from lead and my board.
But and I know that you don't want to call it like entrepreneur, and that you said to me that like I think everyone can like learn things like these things that you were saying that you didn't know. Do you think, how do you see it today? Like, do you think everyone can be, or do you see that some like qualities you need to have to like keep moving on and stay motivated and like?
Yeah, I would say there are two aspects to it. I think that of course you need to have a business idea, a viable business idea. I mean, that's the first thing. And then you have to want to do it, because I think a reluctant entrepreneur is not the best entrepreneur. But if those things, if you really have a good business idea that you believe in, and then you actually want to do it and want to make it as a bit, then I think the rest you can learn, really. I mean, with big respect to how much I have had people around me to help me to understand all these parts and learn. But I think if the other two parts are there, you can definitely learn and do it.
Yeah, sounds very hopeful and good. Like, but what has been most challenging for you and in your journey? And
that's also a very good question. I think different things have been challenging in different periods. Like in the beginning, all you think about is okay, we need funding, and if I only get funding, then everything will fall in place. And then you get the funding and you're like, oh no, now I have to do all the things I said I would with this funding. And then it's like, oh, it's only enough for another year, and then I need to do the next round. So all these things, but again, if you kind of have to take one thing at a time and do it methodically, and that's how I have done it, at least. But then there are different, right now I think in our field, the biggest challenge is to navigate the regulatory landscape, because EU are changing the rules for different types of so I think that's really difficult now. But then we work with really competent regulatory consultants, and they help us with these parts. So that's how different things will be challenging, but it's all a part of it. It's not.
but you feel like very calm in this in yourself and in the technically like that you have been researched in, but have you always like understand your why? And yeah, we have like almost
Yeah.
that question, but um,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
like the
the why, yeah, I know what you mean. Like the
yeah,
why has always been there. I know why I wanted to do this, and the why might, differ a little bit from finding a neural stem cell marker to actually like helping patients and all, eventually helping patients, all those things. But I think that really helps to know your why.
mm,
But it also helps to have a roadmap. And I
yeah,
think that's also something that you learn, that if you have a roadmap, and you can differ from it, but you need to have a roadmap to set up and to work towards. And I think that's how, at least for me, it might be different for other people.
yeah, it's yeah. But so if we like, I was on this question in the start, but when you get like this test tube with a bit of the human brain to do your research in, how does it feel for you to have like the power in the research to maybe save future cancer patients?
Yeah, I mean, I'm extremely, because it's important to stress that these patients are actually giving consent for us to take out a piece of their tumor and to do research on, with no gain for them. So like they will never see the outcome of this for themselves, but they still help by doing this, and for us to test these so we can further our research and our product, and really be able to help future patients. And actually, every time I get one of these samples, I always think about how amazing it is that these patients, in all this horrible, the horrible disease that it is, and the situation, that they still decide to, yes, I will do this to help other patients eventually. So I think
Yeah,
that's something that I really, it humbles me, I would say.
yeah, and I totally understand that also is like this motivator to bring something to the future that
Yeah,
may help people from this disease is
yeah.
yeah, it's breathtaking. But like as a researcher and you work with science, how has it taken to build a company? Are there any burns or been like advantage?
Yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that you learn by making mistakes, and sometimes that you have to make them to kind of go into new directions, to be forced to go into new directions.
Yeah.
But it it has helped, since we are still so anchored in the research, and me, for like I said, I understand the field and everything, but it also has helped that I have people around me that really guide me in the other part where I am not as comfortable, because I've never done it before.
Mm.
And I think that's something I would also like to really stress to. It's very important to surround yourself and trust other people's skills and experience, and reach out and try to get help. Because like I mentioned in the beginning, I had no funding, but I needed help from people. And you would be surprised how much help I have had from people around me that have no monetary gain. They just want to help because I asked them if they can help me with this. Or I think that's something that has really, that's how I've been able to do that part, because I didn't know how to do it.
No. Do you have any tip? I think if there are some that sitting in and have own companies, how do you find like I know that you work a lot with your board, and how do you found these people that you like first of all feel that you can trust, and
Mhm.
yeah, where do you meet them?
Well, yeah, where do we meet them? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I had, like, there was already a part of the board there when I was asked into that, meeting, and the chairman was also involved in this big project that we had, a collaboration between Karolinska. So he had been involved in it for a long time. And Robert Forsheim is a fantastic, he's a professor, he's also a scientist, but also very much an entrepreneur, like he's a businessman, I would say, more than entrepreneur, so he was a very, very good chairman, and we are extremely good match together because he has taught me a lot, and we together have made sure to have in the board, and I can stress this enough, to have a competent and active board where I have been able to fill in a lot of gaps where I have no competence, and have had them help me with that.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for having a really great board and chairman. So he's so active, and he's always available, and we work together on a lot of things.
Yeah. And like your personal journey in this with the board and the company, everything, have you been like hesitated? Have you been worried, or your personal feelings?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a roller coaster, right? But it's kind of a fun one, I would say. It's up and downs, and but never to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's always, I think that's something we have very much the same core values in the board, all of us, and I think that really helps that in the work together, and I feel that they really respect my knowledge in the field and my background too. So it's like I learn from them, but they also listen to me when I say this about the product or the research part of it. So I think that's the interplay. Works out.
Yeah, totally can understand that. And how did you like find your customers, and when you had the idea and like the result, and how
I think this is like it has several answers. When it comes to the research part, we were the first customers, really. We were kind of making it for ourselves because we wanted to have a molecule to mark these stem cells that we were working. This is for us. So that part we understood very well. But then as it developed more into a clinical tool, then we had to reach out to neurosurgeons because they would be the customers, and talk to them and involve them. And that's how we did it. We involved them in this, and like it started as collaborations because we are developing something that they will eventually use. So we want them with us when we are developing this tool for them, this product that they will eventually use. So because I don't know how they want to apply it in the brain eventually, we're not there yet, but this is where we are going. So I think this is what we did. We contacted them, told them about this product, and so far every neurosurgeon that I have talked to and about this have been extremely positive and want to work with us. And so we have several collaborations now in Swedish hospitals, and I think this is something, it says a lot about the field and the lack of something like this.
And today, where are you today, and Celluminova? How does it look?
We are, I would say we're in a very fun and exciting stage right now. We are actually recruiting right now, which I'm extremely excited about, to get new colleagues to work with. And we are setting up a clinical trial that just gonna start now, and we are working towards our goal product, as I call it, for surgeons to be able to use our product in the brain directly and not on tumor tissue. So we are starting to work towards that goal, which is extremely exciting. And we actually will do a new round of to raise capital soon. So I think it's a very fun stage.
I understand. We got a question here. Do you have a plan to find markers for other types of tumors in addition to brain tumors? Also, do you have research part in your company?
That's one thing that I would like to expand more. Right now we are very focused, and we are working towards this, but to work with other tumors, and we have some ideas there. We haven't really emptied it yet, but that's something we are working on. And what was the other question? Sorry.
Let's see. There we have it. Also, do you have research part in your company?
So research part in the company, it's depends on how you see it. We have funding for research that we are doing together with the researchers here at Karolinska and also Linköping. So we do fund research, and we do it in the company together with researchers. But as we are hiring, we're going to also step up that part a little more. And I would also say that all the clinical trials that we are doing, that's research. So yes.
Yeah. Another question. How do you see your future in the company?
I hope that I can keep doing this because I love doing it, and I see it as the more we can funding we have to hire more people and do things together. And I think I have been very much alone for a few years, but now as we are hiring, it's going to be a team, and I think I think I really can keep doing what I'm doing as long as I can, because it's really fun.
Yeah. How does it feel? I understand it's a lot of like fun that you're getting colleagues, but how does it feel like from going from a researcher to be, you have a lot of people around you, but alone, I will say, and to be the CEO and also have the colleagues, and it's a big step for the company.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something I'm very, very excited about. But it's also, of course, it comes with things that I haven't done before and can be a bit scary. But then again, that's where I feel like lead and other people around me, this is where I go like, okay, how have other people done it? How can I get help? And this is something that I try to listen and take notes from other people's both mistakes but also successes. How I look at other this one did really well. How did they do it? And yeah,
it sounds like a good tip as well for anyone that are going on the same journey as you. In my ears, like have been that you have researched a lot and worked a lot. I think it's a lot of time that you spend at work and on your, like, it's your life. I think. How do you feel like this work-life balance? How do we how do you deal with that? Do you feel that you have like private life or work, or how how do you handle it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I always say that I think that work-life balance, a person that has good work-life balance also does better at work, I think, because you're a happier person. And I have two kids, they're 7 and 5. They of course take a lot of time, and I think I'm very careful to give them my time and attention the few hours that they're not in school or sleeping. So that's how I do it, and that I'm like, okay, I'm a mom now, I do this, but then after they go to bed, I don't mind working, or wake up earlier and doing it, but that's how I do it. And I think there is something, this is with a grain of salt, but there's something to the saying, if you find a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life. There is something to that, but again, work-life balance is extremely important.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good answer. And if you had to like go back to yourself at the beginning of your journey and the research and everything, what advice would you like give into yourself?
Yeah, I really do think that you have to learn by making mistakes and all those things. But having said that, I would say to myself, it's never too early to think about the business side of things. So it's important to know your why and everything, but the how has to come right after. You have to understand that part. And that's something that maybe I started a little bit late, but you catch up. But that's something, it's never too early. You have to think about who's the customer, all those things that I learned at Lead and with my board.
Who would like buy your
Yeah, who's your customer? Why would they buy it? All these things.
Yeah.
NABC.
NABC. And for those that are sitting in the audience, like, do you have any tip? Maybe it can be like the NABC, but do you have like a more tip for them, or something that you really want to say, or think of this, or yeah?
Yeah, but if you have, I would say, if you have a idea or an idea for a product, don't be afraid to actually explore it, because it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that, if I have one take home, is to surround yourself with competence. And don't be afraid to ask for help, even if you're not able to pay the person, because people are very happy to help, actually, more than you would think.
Yeah.
So that would be my tip.
Perfect.
And I do that. If someone wants to talk to me, I'm happy to discuss. I don't have a lot of experience or know a lot, but I'm happy to help with the little that I know.
Yeah. Take the chance, all over out there. We have another question. So, how do you combine being a mom and an entrepreneur? It's a little bit of this work-life balance. And have you ever felt like you couldn't give both parts what they deserve? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing. COVID happened, right? Everyone knows this. And we had to have our kids home for weeks, and you still have to run the company, and you have meetings. And I think the thing is to not be too harsh on yourself, and try to it is okay to say, oh, I'm sorry, my kid walked in, that's fine. Or to the kid, to give them the iPad for a few hours. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. And I have been very lucky to have great parents that live very close to me. So, but during COVID, that couldn't actually happen. So, and also supporting family, my husband and I, we try to, he's the same way, he works a lot, but we try to kind of help each other out and balance it, and together figure it out. So
sounds very good. It's another questions from that part. And do you have like any advice for other entrepreneurs who wants to have a family and be parent, who want to become entrepreneur? Like, how do you have a tip there, or advice?
Another good thing with doing that is that you kind of decide your own hours, which is, it's different from going in, clocking in, and you have to kind of be there for specific. So that part is very good. So if you have if you're an entrepreneur, you can save some of the work that you know for later, or so I think that really helps. But again, not being too hard on yourself, and if something takes a few more weeks or another month, not to really beat yourself up, because sometimes it does. And then if you explain it to people, they understand. And I think that's something to think about.
Yeah, like
Because
everyone.
we all have families. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all have families, and we all, and I try to be the same, because when you work with people and maybe they don't, they haven't finished something in time, but it's easier for me to accept that if they actually say, oh, because my kid was sick, then that I didn't feel like doing it. So it's okay to
like, we are all humans.
Exactly.
So I wonder, like, future, next step ahead.
Keep going. Now we, like I said, we're in this very fun phase, and we are working towards our goal. It's really a lot of fun doing that. We're going to raise a capital again. So yeah, it's hopefully if everything goes fine, we can have really getting the product to patient benefit. And I think that's we're getting so much closer to that than I was a few years ago. So
yeah, oh, it sounds amazing. It's so interesting. And I will like just give a note for that. On Monday we are publish an article with you. If any of you wants to read more, we will publish it on lead.se. Well, thank you, Shirin. It's amazing to talk to you, and I feel like we can do it for
thank you, and thanks everyone for all the good questions. And please let me know if there's anything you can probably find my email or find me on LinkedIn or anything. I'm happy to talk to anyone and pay it forward, everything everyone did for me.
Yeah, and I wonder if we have any more questions. Please just write them below in the Q&A, and we will answer them like directly. It's ever been a lot of good questions during the
definitely.
Yeah. But it sounds like they're happy. No, too. So how will you build up your marketing and sales in the near future?
That's a very good question. We have a very good plan for that, because what I didn't mention was our advisory board, which is also something that I really recommend to early companies to also set up an advisory board. And so we have very good marketing competence in our advisory board, and we are together setting up a strategy now for our different products. And I think that this is something to take with you, to have a good advisory board to help you out with these things.
Also a good tip. Yeah. So would you recommend starting a couple of companies at the same time?
I haven't done it, so I don't know. That's a good question. So I don't know if I could do it. Like if I had another totally different idea, I would probably, if it was similar, I would put it in the same company and trying to do it. But for me, that would be difficult. But yeah, it sounds cool, because you want to see which one works out, right?
Yeah, exactly. which one is the best?
But I would say it would be hard for me as a to focus, give one the focus it needs.
Yeah. And we also, this is not a question, but it's so interesting and inspiring to listen to you, Shirin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. And I think that every one of us that have been in this session, webinar, is really like inspired and motivated to listen to you.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing that you are doing what you are doing at
That's
Celluminova.
very nice to hear. Thank you.
So if we don't have another question, I don't think so, but please write them now. You have like a few minutes left. But I will again say a big warm thank you, Shirin, and thank you all of you who has been listening. You will find this on YouTube, so you can hear it many more times if you want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, every day. But the next startup talk is 4th of May. So keep an eye on our social media for that. And I was just, I will say thank you again. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you, Emma. Great questions.
Yeah, thank you. And have a nice evening.
Same to everyone.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.